my fellow Exorcists, and welcome to the Lair of the Film Exorcist. Tonight, we will be taking a look at Star Wars Jedi Apprentice, The Mark of the Crown. A queen is dying. Her angry son is conspiring to thwart his planet's elections and maintain his rule. But he might not be her only heir. There may be another bearing the elusive Mark of the Crown. Qui-Gon Jinn and young Obi Wan Kenobi came to the planet of Gala as guardians of peace. Now they are facing a deadly battle for power and royal position. The true heir must be found. The Jedi must find the way. Now let's get on to my opinion. I'm gonna be honest, it took me a while to finish this book because it's the fourth book in a somewhat interesting series of books. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like learning about young Obi Wan and his time as Qui-Gon's apprentice, but yeah, it wouldn't be my first pick as favorite series, because it is young adult novels or young teen novels, and some of the dialogue is iffy at best. But surprisingly, I enjoyed this book. The queen is dying, or the king is dying plotline where you have the son who's supposedly evil trying to usurp the throne and gain more power, or hold on to the power that he wants, while also there may be the chance of another being in control. There also is the idea of the queen is giving up her power as queen and bringing her planet or her country out of an age of kings and queens and bringing it into a democracy, similar to the larger Star Wars galaxy. She wants her people to be ruled. She doesn't want to rule her people. She wants her people to decide who they want in charge of them, and she wants to have their best interest. Where the son, for a while in this book, and his partner, one of the council members, isn't too keen on this idea. They're actually kind of disappointed, and they want to overthrow the queen. We see this through Giba, the council member who has planted in Biju's head that he is the rightful heir and that he deserves to stay king, just so Giba can keep his power. And we also have a somewhat heartbreaking moment in this book where Obi-Wan makes friends with this servant boy named Joro, and he's gotten very close with him. Like, you can feel a friendship budding, almost similar to what he had with Gura in the last book. But here it's Obi-Wan finding friendship in someone close enough to his age that he can actually feel close to them, and they can kind of understand what he's going through. But also we deal with the idea of... No, actually, let me finish this thought on Juro. So we learn later on in the book that Juro is the culprit who's been poisoning the queen with a very distinct poison, and this is because, similar to Giba and Bijul, he's afraid to give up everything that he enjoys. He's afraid to give up his cushy room in the palace, despite being a servant to the royal family. And he doesn't go about this in the right way. I mean, later on he does end up getting sent back to his family to go farm, or learn farming, which is kind of funny because that's what Obi-Wan was going to do if Qui-Gon didn't make him his apprentice. So essentially he gets Obi-Wan's bad ending, which essentially is a good ending to him because it teaches him responsibility, and he teaches him that there are more things out there than pleasantries and living in palaces and being one of the most important servants in the palace. There is so much more to life than that. Now, back to what I was going to say before. Obi-Wan's also has a very similar problem to the prince. He thinks... Well, actually, this is Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon who both have this question. Do the Jedi really leave a legacy, or does one Jedi leave a whole legacy behind? And Qui-Gon comes to the conclusion in this book that every time he brings peace to another world, or he ends a war, or he saves someone, that is his legacy. That is the legacy of the Jedi. All the good that they do, and the way that he teaches Obi-Wan is also his legacy. Obi-Wan will carry on the teachings of Qui-Gon, and that will help him live on. And we see later on in the timeline, Obi-Wan takes Qui-Gon's lessons to heart and tries to plant them into both Anakin and Luke. At this point, he doesn't really have a legacy yet. He soon receives that later on when he trains Anakin and he trains Luke, but here, he's still learning. He's still learning that not every action is going to be good. And you can't always trust the kindest of people. I mean, everyone has a dark side. That's essentially Obi-Wan's main lesson in this book. Everybody has a dark side. Not everybody is going to think the exact same as you, and even the nicest person can actually be the darkest mastermind of any plot. And we see that with Joro. I mean, he's not the darkest character, but also he's not innocent, like Obi-Wan had always believed. It's also good to see that Star Wars early on is getting into the idea of politics. In this book, we deal with a lot of political ideas, like what if a king... Well, not political, but there is the idea that not all kings are going to be dedicated to the queen that they have chosen. Like in here, before the king of Gala, Prince Biju's father actually married someone else or had a child with someone else, and that would be the leader of the mountain people, whose name escapes me. And because they were born first, technically, before Biju, they are the true heir. Because Biju is technically her younger brother, he doesn't have the Mark of the Crown. This goes into a lot of royalty ideals that not everyone is as clean as the people think. Otherwise, this is actually a really good book, and this is the second time I've read this book, but it's, at this point, it's kind of one of my favorites in this book series so far. I mean, that could definitely change, but it's definitely one of the better written ones. I mean, especially when we see Obi-Wan fighting the prince with an actual sword instead of his lightsaber, and they take the time to recognize that a lightsaber is a lot lighter than an actual sword. And they describe the weight in the sword, and they describe how much difficulty Obi-Wan is having wielding it. And that's actually pretty good, and that's a lot more descriptive than we've gotten. And The story didn't wrap up as quickly as the first book did. I mean, the third book did, aka the last one that we read on this channel. It actually had a much nicer ending, and it was just a really good ending. And this is one of the writer's best works in this series. That's all I'm gonna say. So I'm giving it an A, because again, it is one of the best, and it works so much better. It was a lot more fun to read, despite how long it took me to read, because I've started getting into comic books and other things. But yeah. This has been my review on Jedi Apprentice, Mark of the Crown. Hopefully I can get back to doing these book reviews soon. If not, say spring. We'd actually have to see how winter goes. So, yeah, have a great night, and thanks for listening. Film Exorcist out. And, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and click the little notification bell for more videos and to keep up to date with mine and Cinema Witch's videos, and maybe we'll see you again in the Star Wars galaxy. Have a great night.